Hello, everyone out there listening. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're being safe and you're doing the social distancing as usual. We did get some information that was reiterated during the president's speech, which I'm obviously looking at right now. I'm behind by a bit, but by the chat room, it looks like it's still going on at 7:38 right now. But the social distancing guidelines extended to the end of the month. We already did know about that, but um, it looks like that well, it doesn't look like it in fact, during the speech they gave some really sobering information, and the president, what he sounded kind of somber. It was just, at first, before I was watching the speech, I was kind of looking forward to the first three articles because they were uplifting, I think, like good news type articles. So I was kind of looking forward to that. It kind of got me into somewhat of a good mood because when I do these, I always try to find at least a couple of good stories because no, I'm sick of just bad story after bad story. So I came up with a couple of good ones, and then there were a couple that were not so good, but I still felt that I should share them nonetheless. Um, but now that this speech has happened, at least on the president's side, and when not Dr. Fauci, not the guy, but the ambassador lady, I can't remember her name. I know her name, Deborah. Deborah something. Dang it, I know it. But when she got in front of the mic, she delivered some numbers that were, frankly, not good. Not any reason to panic necessarily. I'll tell you what my plan is personally, and what I think that a few people should do, the ones who exercise common sense. And before I get into the details, I'll just say it now. I would say that you've got probably, if you could take care of it tonight, maybe tomorrow, I would suggest going to the grocery store and doing anything that you can to prepare yourself for not going to the grocery store until the end of April and realistically until the middle of May. So they're not saying that because of the whole panic thing, but they actually show the graph, and I have it up here for you too. It's under this tab. I'll show it here in a minute. But this graph, it shows the upswing of the virus, where they expect it to peak, which is like in mid to late April, and then it starts to finally start going down at the end of April and into May. So right now we're obviously on the upswing, but they are saying, they're not telling us to go out and stock up on anything. They're just saying let's keep doing what we're doing, and then they give us some numbers, and the numbers are pretty scary, to be honest with you. So the first thought that I had was, okay, all right, I've got enough canned food. If I'm scared enough to the point where I'm just going to lock down in my house, I am not leaving for like between now and April 17th. I'm actually certain that I have enough calories. I'll just word it that way. I have enough calories prepared to get me to that, and the ones who I'm with. But it would, like, probably into the second or third week, it's going to be a lot of canned veggies and canned this and canned that, and just a lot of stuff that would be very unpleasant. But it's still food. Food is food. So I think I might risk another grocery trip. In fact, I'm probably going to. I'm going to try to stock up on more orange juice concentrate. That's just to keep my vitamin C up, and all that good stuff. I drink tons of orange juice every day anyway. And I'm going to try to get as much meat as I can. I don't know what it's going to look like in the grocery store. I haven't been there since at least a week, I think. So that's my plan. Try to get some meat, try to get just maybe some top off goods and stuff like that, but just pretty much the things that I need that may carry me through April. Hopefully, I'm hoping I can do that because it's looking like April 5th. To me, looking at the graph, April 5th looks like that's about the time where I don't want to be going anywhere because it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. I think during this whole initial wave that we're about to experience, they're talking something like 5,000 to 6,000 people in Florida dying. And if you compare that to the numbers across the country right now, it's a very sobering picture. Florida, we are the third most populated state in the country, but to have up to 6,000 deaths, and plus this virus, it its mortality rate is somewhere around 5%, maybe 5, maybe 4%. We don't really quite know yet, but I mean, I might go as far as to assume that in Florida it would be higher than normal because our median age in Florida is 42 years old. At least last I checked. I think 2010 census said that we were our average age was 42 here. So yeah, I mean, if you can, just do whatever you can to get yourself until the middle of May if possible. But I don't think there's no real way you can do this if you only have like a week's worth of food in your pantry right now. Like if you have a normal supply of food and you haven't gone out and actually prepared with, like I need this amount of food group, like veggies and this amount of fruits. And if you haven't already done this, I mean, like, over a month ago, really, because when I did my primary stock up, it was like a month and a half ago. It was after the Chinese travel ban, but it was well before everybody else started panicking with toilet paper. I mean, I think that I went out and prepared at least 3 weeks before all that happened. So if you haven't done all that yet, then you probably missed the boat. I would just say that if you have to go out at any point during the month of April, if you have to go to the store, really anywhere you live in the country, unless you're in a really rural area, I would say I would even be tempted. I only have one N95 mask. That's all I have between the three of us in our house. I would be tempted to even put that on when I go to the grocery store if I have to go out there after the 5th of April, especially if it has to be late April into early May. So I'm going to end this speech for now. I know what Mike Pence is saying is probably very important, but I just ran out of time. And plus, my daughter, she just showed up here today, and she'll be here until Friday morning. She's being homeschooled right now, so she's going to be using the computer that I use to do these videos with. So with that being said, and that's actually in my notes here. Why do I still have this thing up? I don't know why. I got a bad habit of just clicking that and forgetting about it. But yeah, I just wanted to say first and foremost, well, not foremost, but the first thing I wanted to mention on my notes list is that my daughter's going to be using my workstation for homeschool. So my desk and computer and the whole setup I got. So I don't know what effect that's going to have for making future videos starting tomorrow. But I will try to keep up as best as I can on a daily basis. But school is way more important than these videos, clearly. I mean, the video I posted yesterday, it's up to a grand earth-shattering scale of 2 views. So yeah, I mean, needless to say, it's not imperative that I keep doing these videos. I mean, if she needs me to help her with her schoolwork, it's going to have to be during this time because I work all day. And when I get home, and if she needs help with her schoolwork, obviously I'm going to do that. And if that carries me into 8 o'clock or 8:30, then I think that's going to be too late to make a video. So as far as the rest of the school year is concerned, I may have to scale back these daily videos back to maybe just during the weekends. So I might have to scale back to maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. I'm still not for sure yet. She might be just fine on her own. She does pretty good with school, so she might be able to do that. I think it might be in the short term initially because it's all new programs and software and techniques, and this whole thing is brand new, not just to us, but to the entire country. So we'll just have to see what happens. But Florida really wanted to get their students back as close to in school as possible. So we're all being homeschooled now, all of our kids. So I'll just have to see how that plays out this week. This week will be a good jumping off point just to determine if I will have the ability to go day by day. But I guess you'll find out probably within 24 hours if that actually happened or not. But by the way, the video from last night, clearly you haven't watched it yet, but as I'm making this one, it has been uploaded. It says it's finished processing. Let me see what that takes me to. And it's published. It's up. It's good. All right. Still no views, but that's okay. Oh, wait. No, those are restrictions. But anyway, yeah, no views. See, the one that I posted on yesterday has 2 views. But again, like I've said the whole time, I don't care about views. I honestly don't. I just want to get into the habit of posting videos on YouTube. That way, when I'm ready for the podcast I want to start, I'll still have the habit, the consistency habit. I won't procrastinate. So far so good. So I really want to keep up doing these. And if there really is no long-term interest in in this pandemic that we're dealing with, I might start doing videos like that, like the Gorgon steer. If you haven't seen that yet, that's really cool. It talks about urban drone surveillance and how police departments around the United States might start using that to surveil large swaths of individual cities, and just watch the ground 24/7. So if there's a bank that got robbed in this sector somewhere, they can actually rewind the video and see the people leaving the bank, and through rewinding the tape or fast forwarding the tape, either way, they'll be able to track that person leaving the bank just looking at a video all the way to where they ended up going. And then they can just say, hey, police, that they went in this building here. They haven't left yet. We fast forwarded up to real time. So you can go arrest them now. We know where they are. That kind of thing. So this video entails all of that. It goes over its origins and details like that. So I might start doing videos like that. Not specifically like military surveillance and stuff like that. Like I'm really fascinated in the universe, the cosmos, galaxies, pulsars, quasars, hypernovas, magnetars, black holes. I mean, all that stuff. It's fascinated me since I was like 3 years old. So I would really like to get into some of those. I think the first one I'll probably do in the future will be the 5 ages of the universe, which is really cool. And it's baffles your mind, to be honest, how long our universe is expected to exist for. So anyway, let me go ahead and get into the real point here, because you probably don't care about that in any way, shape, or form. I think there's a lot more important things to deal with right now than what might be happening out in the cosmos right now. So let me do my little whistle wetting thing that I always do. My apologies. I actually have my microphone. It's moved over a little bit because, again, my daughter, she's going to start using this desk. So I've already cleared it off. So I'm just kind of like not in my normal groove right now. So, okay, let me get straight into this, because if I don't have enough time to get into those other articles, they're honestly not as important as what they talked about. So let's see here. I will cover that, maybe not. I think that what they covered in the press conference is way more pressing than this. I was wanting to go over the COVID numbers in New York City, Pinellas County, where I live, Los Angeles, and other places. Okay, so during the president's speech, he actually had these 2 flat screens on either side of the podium, and that's where they gave the statistics, the graphs, the data, and all that stuff. We were unable to see. I don't know why Fox News. I watched it through them on via YouTube, and they were streaming it live. But after they showed the first graph, they actually panned the camera and they zoomed it in to the doctor, and we didn't see like the next 5 slides, which by what her speech was indicating, it sounded pretty scary, but we didn't see what it looked like. So I was kind of frustrated about that. But I did see the main information that she was speaking about, so I will go over that. Let's see. And the president, he did say, pertaining to those 2 screens at the time when he started talking, it said 30 days to stop the spread. So that is maintaining 6-foot distance between each person, 10 people maximum in a group. And I think that he didn't speak to this directly, but I've also been hearing lately, not even 10 people. It should only be the folks that you live with. So if you go out in public, even if they're your best friend, even if they live right across the street, they're saying that it's even at the point now where you really shouldn't just be counting heads and be like, okay, well, we got less than 10, so we're good. We're not going to get the virus, because clearly it doesn't work that way. They're saying that you really should only be socializing physically around people you live with, and that should be about it. So I would definitely lean toward that as opposed to just 10 random people at a time, because that just doesn't make sense. And plus, I believe I did read that article the other day. There was a scientist who was stating that a person who sneezes will sneeze at like 40 or 50 miles an hour, which means that if somebody sneezes without covering their sneeze, they can actually throw their droplet projectile as much as 27 feet away. So the 6-foot distance, at least when it comes to somebody sneezing at you, 6 feet away is not even anywhere close enough. So if somebody sneezes at you who has coronavirus, you're going to get showered with it almost immediately, unless you're at least 27 feet away, as far as I understand. I might be a little off on those numbers but I think 27 is the actual number. I'm usually pretty good with numbers, so I believe that's the number, but give or take a couple of feet. So anyway, let's see here. So he did say that it's literally a matter of life or death to do this practice with the 30-day to stop the spread practice. So he did actually use the words, it's a matter of life and death. So getting into the financial aspect of his speech, he was talking about the Paycheck Protection Program, and this is part of the $2 trillion package that they delivered last Friday, or he signed last Friday. So $350 billion worth of that will go to loans that are available from lending partners that has already been set up through the government or with the government. It will help to cover 2 months' pay for the employees. That's not the only thing that these companies can use it for, but in addition to using other resources, they should be funded to cover 2 months worth of pay for their employees. And if they do so, the loan extending beyond, as far as I understand, I'm not an economist, but it sounded like it made pretty clear sense to me. But from what I gathered from what he was speaking about with this is that if you're paying your employees through this loan and you're paying them for up to 2 months or longer using this loan, and they are unemployed, but you're still paying their salary, then that loan that you have will be forgiven as long as the business keeps paying their workers. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's about the extent of which he covered with that information. So if that makes sense to you, then that's good. If not, then I'm sure there's plenty of easy resources out there where you can find that out. Maybe just take a couple of keywords from what I've typed out in my notes, and hopefully you'll be able to find it fairly easily on just a simple search. So okay, so let's see here. He said that this includes sole proprietors, I know I spelled it wrong, independent contractors, and applications. If you own a business and you want to take advantage of this program, the applications will start this Friday. So you can start filing this Friday for that. All right, let's see. And the president also spoke with leaders in the internet service provider industry. He said that they are very heavily strained with the internet as a whole throughout the world, and including inside the United States. And it's because we're all working from home now, school from home. Those who can work from home are working from home using the internet. Myself included. I should start on Monday. But he did say that the internet service provider leaders are staying on top and they're keeping us online so far. So far so good. But they said that they're seeing record numbers of bandwidth and just internet traffic as a whole. But they said so far they've got it under control and they're just kind of on a waiting game. I don't know if they're doing upgrades or if they're enhancing it in any way if possible, but they are very well aware of the amount of people that are on the internet right now, and they're doing their best to keep it smooth internet-wise, because clearly we cannot afford anything drastic to happen to the internet. I mean, my God, that's a game over moment if that happens. Okay, so let's see, moving on here. So New York City now has 250 ambulances from FEMA, and they have 500 EMT personnel. In the state of California, there has been 8 temporary hospitals set up with a total of 50,000 beds that are waiting to receive patients. Let's see. They also, I know I spelled it wrong. I was just speed typing. They brought 25,000 Americans back home from overseas, from over 50 countries. And that number was as of March the 29th. The way he sounded in the speech was that they're all back now. I think virtually virtually all Americans are home now. Like no, if you're an American and if you're not in America right now, then you really screwed up because you should be here right now for sure. All right, and let's see. And he said over the next 2 weeks it is expected to get very tough, and he said it will be a very painful 2 weeks. I mean, these are his words. He said that we're losing hundreds of people per day. I added the as of now because just the way he worded it without typing every single word in the whole sentence that he read, it essentially translates to that, as of today, we're losing hundreds of people per day due to the virus. And let's see, what else? He compared the medical staffs, the nurses, the doctors, the EMTs, the personnel working in the hospitals. He compared them to soldiers going into battle, and he said that they are extremely brave for doing so. So he was commending the medical industry for the insanely amazing job that they're doing. They might as well be soldiers fighting on a battlefield. I mean, that's essentially what they're doing. Okay, so and then they start to get into the real stuff. I believe this is when this lady, again, I can't remember her name, but she took the podium and she said that that in a worst case scenario, we may see between 1.5 to 2.2 million deaths without mitigation. And this is in the short term. It looks like what they're speaking about, it looks like at the very latest, they're looking at this number by early August. It's either August 1st or August 7th. But by the time it's August, they're anticipating if we don't follow the guideline, the 6 feet between people, social distancing, no shaking hands, staying inside as long as you possibly can, don't mix around with people in groups of 10 or more. I mean, if we very loosely follow those guidelines, kind of like what people are doing right now. I mean, to be honest with you, last week when I went to the store, like half the people didn't even care. They were walking around with a little handheld basket and just buying a bunch of crap that they're basically just doing their nightly grocery shopping. It was ridiculous. Walking around in tank top, flip flops, and I don't know, board shorts, cargo shorts, or whatever. There was like half the store was acting like that. Like they just didn't care. Like, oh, I guess I'm not getting toilet paper. at least they got the wine and they got the beer and oh, I can buy some grapes. It was ridiculous. But if everybody tightens up, big time tightens up, and if we all follow the guidelines, then they're expecting that we can expect to see as little as 100,000 to 200,000 deaths by August. So, yeah, as little as. I did say that, as little as. They're expecting bare minimum, at least 100,000 people in the United States are expected to die from this. They're saying it will get that bad. They're saying on a high number, they're expecting possibly as many as 2.2 million people dying. So let me put that into perspective because I didn't have a chance to do this. Now, if the virus, if it has a 5% mortality rate, which they kind of are suggesting, I mean, I've heard 3%. I know that there's other countries like Italy, they're closer to the 10% mark. It's like 8%, 7%. But let's call it an even 5%. Now, if only 5% of people who catch coronavirus end up dying, meaning that you have a 1 in 20 chance of passing away if you contract coronavirus, that means that based on this number of 2.2 million, which is the number of people who die, so that's the maximum amount of people who could die, which would represent 5% of those who contract coronavirus. So if I multiply that by 20, because 5 times 20 is 100, if I multiply this number by 20, that would be an estimate of how many people, in a worst case scenario, that they expect to contract coronavirus around the United States. And that's up to around 44 million people. And they're saying that would be in a worst case scenario by August. Okay, this is by the beginning of August. This isn't period. This isn't until it's all over. They're even talking about another wave coming up in fall. Dr. Fauci was already talking about that. Although he did say we'll be way better prepared then, which I think is true because all the factories will be churning out tons of ventilators, tons of this, that, and the other. You know, like we're going to be a well-oiled machine ready to just be throwing stuff willy-nilly everywhere. So I agree with him. I'm sure by the fall we'll be super ready for any potential outbreak that happens. But in the short term, between now and August, they are expecting as many as 44 million people to contract coronavirus. So that's a lot. Let's see, divided by 44. Now that is 1 out of 7.5 people in the United States. Okay, so you have, you know, if you want to round it up to 1 in 8 people. Okay, that's still a crazy number. So 1 out of every 8 people will get the coronavirus if we do not practice this social distancing thing over the next month. And I agree with that. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. And again, this is short term. This is only from now to August. They're saying between now and August, if let's say like 75% of us practice social distancing, the other 25% just don't care. Or maybe their numbers are 50-50. Half of us are super careful and we prepared and we're ready. We're going to batten down the hatches. We're okay. The other 50%, they're like, whatever, it's life is normal. I can't stay inside for more than 12 hours. I got to go out and, I need sunshine, fresh air. I need to socialize. Then we're probably going to see the 1 in 7, 1 in 8 people between now and August that will be infected. So I'm telling you, it was a scary. I'm not trying to scare, but I'm just saying it's a very sobering speech. This whole thing just got really real. It already has. I think by the end of the day, tomorrow, actually, very likely by the time I wake up tomorrow, there's going to be over 1 million people in the world that have coronavirus. Official, okay? That's people who, at least in the United States, you went to a hospital or a drive-through place if you're lucky enough to have one nearby, or if you were lucky enough to get tested some way, somehow, as well as the rest of the world, people who were officially tested with a test, the number will hit 1 million. Those who were not tested, I'm sure we are, good God. As far as the entire world is concerned, third world countries are getting it now. India, they've had it for a little while now. I think the numbers aren't that crazy right now, but like I said, the company that works with us, we use a company in India to help process some of our material that we use for work because they're on the opposite side of the world, which helps us because, hospitals tend to be 24 hours and when we're not at work, they can basically continue from where we left off at. So, good grief. I'm sure that I'm sure it's many, many millions by now. I would not be surprised at all because I really doubt that every person in India who gets sick is not going to be able to get a test. That's just my honest opinion. I hope I'm wrong, but sorry, a little close. All right, so if everyone follows the guidelines, between 100 to 200,000 deaths across the country. The peak outbreak of the virus is expected to start in about 14 days. So about 2 weeks from now, that's when they're expecting to maybe hit the peak. So if you can imagine, the storm is starting, okay? The best analogy I have is a hurricane. I went through Irma, which, it looked devastating. We were ready for devastation, but we actually got pretty lucky. It wasn't too bad. We got Cat 1 hurricane issues from it where I live. When it passed by our area, it was a Cat 2. But anyway, the whole point behind all that is that the storm is here. It's at the point now where you can't evacuate anymore. The roads are empty. Everybody's hunkering down. Everybody's just ready to ride the storm out. And the eye of this hurricane, the eye of this coronavirus storm is expected to be here in 14 days. So 14 days from now, 2 weeks from now, it's going to get really bad. And they're saying that, I'm going to treat that as if I'm sitting in the eye wall of a hurricane, I'm not going to go out to the store. I'm not going out to the store because as soon as I open up the front door, this huge blast of wind will just fill up my house and the whole roof will explode. I'm not doing it. So 14 days from now, nobody should be outside. And hopefully I'll be already working from home by then. But if not, and if I still have to drive to work, I hope that I'm one of the only cars driving around because honestly, when I go to work, I have noticed it being a lot lighter. It's probably roughly half the traffic that it usually is, but that's kind of consistent with those who work retail, those who work call centers. Tampa Bay is one of the leading areas of the United States with call centers. So, those large call centers should be shutting down. They should be going work from home if possible, this, that, and the other. But just in the last 5 seconds, I saw 2 cars drive by my window. Up 3. There went another one. Now, I live on it's a 2-lane road, but it's a road that's in between 2 neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So, my neighborhood accesses this road, and the road that I live on ends up going to a traffic light if you go west toward the beach, or if you go east. Either way, you hit a traffic light. It's one of those roads. It's not very heavy, but it has a pretty consistent traffic pattern on a normal basis. But now, everybody should be sitting inside right now, but they're not. People are still traveling. It's ridiculous. People are still going around doing whatever it is they do. A lot of people are out walking around, which is a good thing. It's good for your body. It's good for vitamin D. Vitamin D, sunshine. It's good for your immune system. So minimum 15 minutes of sun per day it's proven that it's helpful for your immune system. So, and just to throw that out there, but All right, so anyway, the peak outbreak of the virus, 14 days. Just don't forget that, 14 days from now. So that's going to be roughly, let's see, on the, well, that'll be easy, on the 14th, April 14th. 14 days from now, April 14th, around the middle of May. So in the next 2 weeks, this week right here is going to be a nasty week. The week after that's going to be a really nasty week. Just this whole block here. It's not going to be good. I mean, they're talking potentially tens of thousands of people getting infected per day. And there could be as many as, I think at the peak, it was something like 5,000 plus dying per day. I mean, it's not good. So let's see. Fox News Channel dropped the ball. I already explained that. April 6th to May 19th. That's the worst period that we're looking at if the projections are correct, which I will get to right now. And I didn't change the background, but, you know, once I saw this, I mean, it got a little real. Now, if you go to this website, check this out. It's covid19.healthdata.org/projections. It should be pretty easy for you to type that in. Okay, one more time. COVID, COVID 19.healthdata.org/projections. It's highlighted right there on the screen. You go to that URL, it will take you to this. And this is helpful to you because this pertains to the entire United States. And look, there's more than one graph. Okay, so there's 3 main graphs here. That represents the entire country, and I'll check the numbers here in a minute. But also, importantly, it shows every state in the United States. So wherever you might be listening, whether if it's Florida, Utah, Texas, West Virginia, New Mexico, Minnesota, Kansas, Delaware, Alabama, wherever you are, you can click on the state. Okay, so let me just check California. It's our most populated state, so maybe there's a good chance that anybody listening to this right now might be from California. So let me try to find California here. And the graph moved. It looked like it shifted its time scale a little forward. So it looks like California, the worst of California looks like, and you know, when I say the worst, meaning April 6th, I was looking at Florida, and it looked like April 6th. I mean, I kind of started here where the arrow is. I figured like that looks like it's pretty high compared to where we are now. I mean, you know, we're right here, and that's where the graph is. So according to Florida, like we were starting to get up, and I was like, okay, so from that point, worse, and then maybe a little better. So that was kind of where I got those dates from. But so what it's showing here is that at its worst, let's see here, on May 1st, it looks like they're expecting to hit the worst numbers. So let me see. This is pertaining to beds available. So this is pertaining to hospital resource use. So so like how many beds are going to be needed, all beds needed, beds available. So let me scroll down here because this shows the amount of deaths per day, which I hate to show it, but you know, this is a wake-up call, folks. It is. It's a real wake-up call. So right here, it looks like in California, they're going to experience, they're estimating around 120 deaths per day at the worst. And then it will start to trail off into later May and into the month of June, okay? And hopefully they're going to level it off. That's what they're hoping for. We don't know. Because remember, we're right here, okay? So we don't really know what this is going to look like. This could triple for all we know. We're just going by projections. So, and by what I heard in the speech, this is if everybody follows the guidelines, okay? If everybody practices social distancing, I'm sure that there's a little bit of an adjustment for those who don't follow this. Like they probably have a good prediction. Like they might say like, well, I'm sure there's going to be a minimum of 20% of people who are just not going to give a crap. But they're saying that best case scenario, this is what we're looking at. Okay. As long as we follow the guidelines, we're looking at this projection for California. Okay. So the total number of deaths in California projected to August 4th. Okay. So look at this. Now, okay, 2 deaths per day, 1 death per day, June 18th. All right, 0 deaths per day, June 22nd. So technically from June 21st on back to now, they're expecting 5,000 deaths, okay? I don't know why they said August 4th because they're averaging 0 deaths here. So really, the scale kind of ends. I mean, they're saying 0 to 1 by July 1st, but you get what I mean. Like it's not really August; it's actually July. So, and this is total deaths. Oh, okay. So hold on. Yeah, that's the maximum per day. So I'm looking at the total scale. Okay, so this thing will not go down because you can't take away a death once a death occurred. So that's why that the graph looks the way it does here. So they're expecting around, let's see, like it looks the same. See, it looks like by July 1st that they're expecting around 5,000 deaths by the beginning of July. So you kind of have an idea of that, and that's the state of California. Um, Again, if 5,000 people pass away in California, and if it only has a 5% mortality rate, I mean, it's easy to come up with this number, but you do it times 20, and it's 101,000 people in California. Strangely, in Florida, it was a higher number. So let me just go to Florida here really quick. And I will come back to the United States. I hadn't forgotten about that. The hospital beds, I mean, it is what it is. You already saw what it was for California, and this is what the hospital resources are in Florida. So ICU beds available, 1,695. There's 20,000. They're saying that they're expecting about 2,000 ICU beds to be needed. So there's almost a 300 bed shortage. I mean, frankly, if it's only 300 beds that we'd be short of, I mean, I call that a good thing because frankly, I was thinking that number would be like 20,000 or something. I thought it was going to be some insane number. So, I mean, if these projections are legit, I mean, yes, a lot of people will succumb to this disease, but I mean, it could be much worse. It really could. So, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But the deaths per day, see, it's higher than it was in California. They're expecting, and again, it's probably the amount of seniors in Florida, the average age in the state of Florida. If you take all 20 plus million people in the state of Florida, you add all their ages up one by one, and then you divide it all by the number of people here, 20 million, you're going to get about 42. So that's about the average age that we are here in Florida. So that's probably why the death count is higher, because we have a pretty high number of seniors who live in our state. So similar to California, it looks like here for us it's going to peak around May 7th. But let's see here. So around April 5th, April 6th. So I think I was actually going by the United States number, to be honest. When I was saying like from April 6th all the way up until May 17th, that's about the time that you should hunker down. Let me just check with the United States first. Yeah, here we go. That's what I was basing my number on. So look. So April 6th is about where we cross this 1,500 deaths per day marker. And so going from this part and then scaling all the way through to where the 1,500 deaths per day cross over again, it's about May 19th. Okay, so it's about the same time that I put on my notepad. Again, still a lot of people dying at this point if the graph follows this trend, but hopefully we stay close to the dotted line. If you hadn't noticed, what they're giving here with numbers, they're actually giving the numbers based on the dotted line. They're saying that should be the average. That should be in the middle. That's about what they're hoping for, or that's about what they're expecting. What they're hoping for is the bottom end of this line here, where my cursor is. But they're saying that worst case scenario, nobody follows social distancing rules. I mean, everybody just doesn't care. They just live life like it normally is. They're saying like the top of this is expected. So I kind of wish they had three of these boxes here that would show us those three numbers. But yeah, you should definitely visit this website. Look at this. I mean, just take a look at all of them. But yeah, they're expecting 83,967 deaths across the United States. If it gets bad enough, and again, if it has a 5% mortality rate, just multiply by 20. 83,967 times 20. It's about 1.6 million, 1.7 million people in the United States that would get infected with coronavirus if the average mortality rate is 5%. I don't know if they're sticking with 5%. I just know that's something that I've heard in the past, that it's roughly 5. I heard in Italy, again, it's more like 7%, maybe 10% that they're looking at. But I think the United States is on the lower end. It in fact might even be lower than 5. It might be more like 3 or 4% in the country. So this number could actually be lower than that. But still, that's an alarming number. I mean, that's roughly, what is that? 1679. Let me try this real quick. Because there's about 330 million people in the country divided by, and I'm just going to zero it out. So that's like 1 out of 200 people will contract the virus nationwide. Okay. That sounds pretty optimistic because there were some experts who were suggesting like 70% of the entire country would end up with this in long term. But again, this isn't long term. This is just the first wave because Dr. Fauci said, come fall, we're going to see another one of these. Like it's just going to happen in waves. It's just the way it's going to be. Like when we reopen the economy, reopen businesses, we're going to probably start to see the start of another trend like what we're seeing here. And what the president was hoping for was that when we reopen things, and if we start to see something scaling up in areas, we could close those areas off again. But there may be, or there most likely will be areas in the country where you won't see a trend going up again. And those are the places where you can keep open because the virus is under control in those areas. We have social distancing down. We're already accustomed to the situation we're living in. So he's hoping that, through social distancing, don't handshake, cover your mouth, keep your hands clean. As long as we do that across the country, hopefully we'll be able to mitigate this insanity until they come up with a vaccine, if they come up with a vaccine. So I hope they do. I mean, just remember, folks, they don't have a vaccine for every flu virus. There's other vaccines that they don't have either. I don't think they ever got one for the Zika virus. I don't think they ever got one for Ebola. I'm sure that there's other diseases out there that may have been around for decades that they may have not found a vaccine for, but they have received some promising information as far as research is concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this now, and I'll just get straight into the articles here. I'm going to have to keep it brief. It's getting to be about 8:30. I was hoping to keep this as late as 8:30. Let me just show the map real quick here. Johns Hopkins map, the one I always show. The number's a little bit alarming, but I think they're saying like every 3-4 days, at least in the U.S., the numbers may start doubling, something like that, until we start to hit a slowdown. We're at 857. This time yesterday, we were around that's almost 100,000 more people than yesterday. So the numbers are climbing faster and faster still. We're at almost 200,000 in the United States. Clearly, China's number is completely bogus, absolutely fake. There's no way that they exploded to 82,000 people in a matter of 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it just, boom, just flatline out of nowhere. Nope. Fake numbers, absolutely fake numbers. I bet they have millions. I bet there's probably over 10, 20, 30 million people who have it in China. I'm sure there are. I'm not sure, but I believe that to be true. Italy's over 100,000 too. So, I mean, Italy and Spain, terrible. The reason Spain's numbers went up apparently is because they had a bunch of feminist rallies that occurred during the time where we were starting to practice social distancing, but they didn't really seem to care in Italy, and they let those parades go on. And when those events were occurring, there were literally tens of thousands of people that were showing up, shoulder to shoulder. And now Spain is dealing with 100,000 people affected. Gee, I wonder where the virus spread. Freaking idiots. Anyway, I'm sorry, Spain. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. I'm not saying Spain as a whole is an idiot. I'm just saying that the people who allowed those organizations to gather people in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, yeah, those people are freaking idiots. Because now you're looking at almost 100,000 people that are infected in your country that you know of. Which, by the way, the United States, the reason our numbers are so crazy is because we by far have the widest availability of testing of any other country on earth. And a large part of that is to do with the quick response from our government, our president, our private sector for developing these awesome tests. We developed a 5-minute test, and they're rolling it out now. So, yeah, so our number it's by far the largest, but it's also by way far the most accurate. And if you showed real numbers here, I would almost guarantee you that this would be a completely different picture you'd be looking at. I bet Iran probably has numbers probably 10 times higher than that. I would not be surprised at all. That's an authoritarian type of country. It has a dictator in power, one of those types of countries. And coincidentally, kind of like China, it reached 44,000 and it's not really moved any in the last week or two. That's kind of strange, making it appear as though, oh no, we got it under control. We're good. We're fine. Nothing to see here. Yeah, okay, sure. If that's what you want to go with. All right, let's go let's see here. Dow Jones wasn't impressive today, to be honest. At least it wasn't the last I looked at it. Yeah, it fell 400 points. So, unfortunate. But if you're still holding your breath for the stock market, which I'm not, I'm actually shocked that it's still above 20,000 now. I'm surprised it's not closer to 10 by now, to be honest with you. But in light of the news that we received today with the numbers we're looking at, I would expect this to fall very fast tomorrow. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I hope they keep their faith in the stock market because that's good for our economy. But I don't see that happening. But I hope I'm wrong. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see. Oh, man, I really don't want to be in a bad mood. I really don't. I want to be in a good mood. I mean, I got through work today. Today's another healthy day, another successful day. I don't know why they keep showing this. It just looks weird. But every time I get on Fox News, they're always showing the same stupid thing, like suggesting, like, do you have this happening? Because it appears that Alexa or Echo told us, because we paid for the information, that you might have this happening to you. I don't know. Whatever. Who knows? If you watch my Gorgon Stare video that I talked about with the surveillance drones and stuff, you might get that. But anyway, so Trump calls for the $2 trillion infrastructure bill as phase 4 of coronavirus response. Now, I take credit. I could take credit for this because one of the only things that Trump has promised during his campaign for his first term in office that he has not delivered on yet is the infrastructure. He says we need to rebuild our infrastructure, rebuild the bridges. Our bridges are crumbling. Our buildings are crumbling. We need new libraries. We need new highways. We need new, he was saying that in almost every speech he was given before he was president. And I was like, yeah, bring it on. It's good stuff. That's something we should be spending our money on. And now, and I've been speaking about this. So if you've been following my video series on this, there was one video series about a week, or a video that I did, individual video about a week ago, where I was talking about the Hoover Dam. And it was around the time the $2 trillion, it was the, not phase 4. This is a future one they're talking about. The one that they just passed and he signed last Friday was a $2 trillion spending bill. And that's going to furloughed workers. It's going to companies that have had to shut their doors, things like that. But around the time that they were debating that and they were getting close to passing it, I was here at home making a video talking about how back in the day during the Great Depression, they were building Hoover Dam, for example, because the government was supplying the workforce, the ones who were unemployed at the time because they were furloughed from their jobs or whatever they were dealing with after the great crash of 29. And the government was starting to develop these giant contracts to build structures, and they were putting the jobless to work. And the biggest one I can think of from the 1930s, and maybe you've got a better one, but the biggest one I can remember is Hoover Dam. So the government paid for it. They had this huge spending project to build it. They gave them like a 2-year deadline, maybe 3-year deadline. And at least by today's standards, if the government pays for something like a stretch of interstate or whatever, and if the construction company finishes early, they can get a bonus, and the workers can get a bonus if they finish ahead of schedule. That kind of keeps a fire under their ass so they can get it done. But yeah, with Hoover Dam, it only took them a couple of years, maybe 3 years to finish it, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I've read anything about the construction of Hoover Dam, but I have read about it before. I think I saw a documentary about it at some point. A good one, not a YouTuber documentary. I'm talking about like a National Geographic one, like a legit one. So that's what I was talking about when they were talking about giving $2 trillion to the people who are not working right now. I thought that was a bad idea because that's going to breed inflation. It was going to inflate our economy. If you just keep giving quote unquote free money to people who are not working, that's why socialism cannot survive. That's why communism cannot survive. That's why Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders is just completely full of hot air because it can't work. You just cannot give free money out. Andrew Yang, he wanted to give everybody $1,000 a month just because they're an American. It doesn't work that way. If you do that, inflation's going to run out of control. It's going to adjust. If they adjust the minimum wage to $15, if it goes suddenly from whatever it is today, like $9 an hour, and you jump it up to $15 out of nowhere, then you're going to see massive inflation across the country. That's just the way it's going to be. That's how economy works, or economics work. So what I was hoping for was that instead of just giving $2 trillion, which they're not, they're given, it's like somewhere in the tune of like $500 billion that they're going to supply to the United States in the form, or the citizens in the form of $1,200 checks if you make less than $75,000. If you have a kid, you have an extra $500. If you have 4 kids, you get an extra $2,000, so on and so forth. And then there's also a part of that $2 trillion bill that if you're unemployed, they will guarantee you up to $600 extra a week on top of the unemployment you're receiving now for up to 4 months. So it has all that built into it. And plus with small businesses and things like that, they can take out loans and stuff. But when it came to just giving people who are out of work money, I was arguing that they should start to look into the infrastructure, such as back in the 30s when they were doing Hoover Dam. President Trump, before he was president, was talking about rebuilding America, and he said it would cost about $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion, to completely reconstruct all of our interstates and our highways and our bridges and make everything brand new and glorious like it used to be. And around the time he was about to sign that $2 trillion bill for the American people and for businesses, I was saying the same thing. You can't just give money to people for doing nothing, because your physical work, whether if you type on a keyboard or if you're digging ditches, your physical work translates into economy. It translates into money. It translates into, in a collective sense, it translates into the American economy. So I was hoping that they would have had something in place to where, like, if you're unemployed completely, not furloughed, but if you're unemployed from your job, if they had to let you go completely, then in order to receive money from the government, you should be willing to provide a certain amount of time. Now, I didn't go into that detail. Like, so the government's going to give you $1,200 for the month. And in exchange for that, the government is requiring that you fulfill 40 hours of community service, in some way or another. Like, you're going to donate 40 hours of your time to help the government do something. Because if they just give you free money, then it's never going to come back. It's just going to inflate the economy. But if they give you that money, and then in return, you actually do something for the money that you were given, then it's not going to hurt the rest of the country that bad. I wish they did that with the last one, with the round 3 spending bill, but at least with this one, and I really don't want a 4th wave to come out, phase 4 of the coronavirus response. I don't want $2 trillion more, because the $23 trillion we were already in debt in before all this crap started has been scaring me to death to begin with. I mean, did you know that that the $23 trillion that we're in debt with right now, if you actually plug it in on the calculator, it's somewhere in the tune of it was something like $60,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. So, like, if you average about 330 million Americans, men, women, child, a baby being born right now, every single human being that's alive in the country right now, minus the illegal aliens, because we don't know how many there are. I'm just talking about American citizens. Every man, woman, child, baby, all the above, it averages out to about $60,000 per person. That's how much we're on the hook for to make our national debt whole again. That is insane. And then just willy-nilly, here goes another $4 trillion. The last one, wave 3, that was $2 trillion. This one would be another $2 trillion. I mean, you see the insanity behind all this. So yes, if there is a $2 trillion infrastructure bill, I hope to God that every single person who is going to get paid in this $2 trillion package will be a furloughed worker, or somebody who is unemployed right now, or somebody who is not going to be employed in the construction industry if not for this package. Because they've got to put Americans to work who are not working. Yes, if you work in a restaurant industry, I'm sure you don't want to be a construction worker. I understand that. But you know what? Would you rather do some construction job where you're, shoveling this or using a wheelbarrow to, take a few cinder blocks over here? Would you rather do that, or would you rather have no money and starving and your family's kicked out of your house because you can't afford your rent and all your stuff just, gets seized because they have to sell all your stuff to cover the rent that you squatted for, and now you got nothing? Now you're going to either live under a bridge or live in a tent, or you're going to have to go to homeless housing, which good luck, because there's probably hundreds of thousands around you who are homeless already and you're just now catching up. Or would you rather just, walk around with a few center blocks here and there? Would you rather do a bit of hard labor? And it might not even be hard labor. It might just be, getting your hands dirty. I would hope that you would want to get your hands dirty. That way our economy can survive. Now, I would absolutely be willing to do that. Okay. Now, if there was another disaster that happened to this country, then my job would have been instantly gone, because my job's like a technology job. So in a way it is, in a way it's not, but I'm sure that the hospital system could probably find some way to downsize my line of work based on what I'm doing, but that's not the situation we're in right now. The situation we're in right now is that everybody needs a hospital. Everybody needs medical treatment. So right now it's going to be, it's just not, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like for some people in certain circumstances, like we might not be dealing with a medical tragedy. It might be like in the 2008 financial crisis. I probably could have lost my job overnight when that happened. Whereas in this situation, it's a health crisis. So, like different crises that happens throughout time, could affect a number of different jobs. Here's a great one. What if a massive solar flare, which would absolutely happen, it happened back in the 1860s. It was called the, it starts with the C. The, oh my God, I can't believe I don't know this right now. No, not cornea. The Carrington event. It was called the Carrington event. Look it up. Carrington event. It was during the 1860s. It was around the time of the Civil War. And there was this massive, I think it was an X-class or an M-class flare that flew off the sun, directly hit the Earth. And the force, or the amount of supercharged particles that hit our atmosphere, was so intense that the northern lights could have been seen as far south as Cuba. That's how far south the northern lights went. So virtually the entire United States was witnessing the northern lights in the 1860s when this one event was occurring, which was only for a number of hours, maybe a day or two at the very most, if there were waves to this. But when it came to telegraph operators, the magnetically charged particles from the sun that was hitting our atmosphere, it was so intense that people who were using telegraph machines at the time, they were getting electrocuted. There were even reports of a couple of them catching on fire because of the amount of supercharged magnetic particles just pounding into our very small electrical system at the time. Now, imagine the same thing happening that happened back in the 1860s, but it happened today with the infrastructure we have now, as dependent as we are on electricity. It would be absolutely insane. And that's just one of those situations. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And when it comes to my position, my job specifically, I'm very heavily reliant on our online technology, our computer technology. I mean, virtually everything we deal with is paperless now. So if something like that happened, I would be instantly out of a job. And then I would be in that situation where the president passes a $2 trillion spending bill to try to get our infrastructure back on track. I would have to be one of those guys laying down power lines and replacing this thing and replacing that thing and, holding on to equipment and, just doing whatever it is that people would have to do today to help rebuild our infrastructure. The only fortunate thing is that this is, at least for those people who would have to contribute if they're furloughed from their jobs and they have to go out and actually work for the money the government's giving them, they're just working on just, the status quo, the stuff we're used to working on. Bridges, highways, this, that, the other. It's something that we're very familiar with doing. It's not something we would have to, scramble to get together in order to, get the world back together again or the country back together again. He's just talking about using this $2 trillion infrastructure bill to put Americans to work who are furloughed and, rebuild this bridge in Minneapolis, rebuild that bridge in Austin, Texas, rebuild the stretch of highway between, I don't know, Chattanooga and Memphis, Tennessee, or whatever. Just doing whatever we need to do to keep people working. That way the economy can stay strong, because I'm sure Trump definitely knows that if you just give people money for free from the government, it's going to dilute our economy and make things much worse. It's going to inflate the economy, and if you do that for long enough, you'll end up with Venezuela. So, and then yes, there's information I highlighted and all that, but I got into a rant like I usually do, so my apologies. So there's some ideas with that. I basically covered the gist of it during my rant there, but okay, so that was definitely good news. I really hope he does that, because I was totally talking about that a couple of weeks ago, where they got to do like what they did with Hoover Dam. They got to start contracting workers who are out of work. And this is the perfect time to do that. All right, that one I already clicked on. All right, I'm going to have to move this quickly, folks. Let's see. I got to make spaghetti tonight. It's 8:30. Holy cow. Fauci predicts another coronavirus outbreak in the fall with very different outcome. There's Fauci. All right, so the top infectious disease expert in the country said Monday he predicts there will be another coronavirus outbreak in the fall, but expects the United States to be better prepared to combat the virus. In fact, I would anticipate that this would actually happen because of the degree of transmissibility. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is NIAID, said when asked about a possible reemergence of the virus in the fall during a news conference. Fauci added, however, that if another outbreak were to occur, things are going to be very, very different. Our ability to go out and be able to test, identify, isolate, and contact trace will be orders of magnitude better than what it was just a couple of months ago. Let's see. Fauci said that by the fall, treatments for the coronavirus would hopefully be ready for use. He said by then it's important the government has a vaccine that's on track and multiple other candidates. So not a solid vaccine, but one that hopefully will be on track by then. So that is definitely good news. So we will most likely get another wave of this coming. And hopefully, in the case that we do, hopefully we'll be way better prepared for it than we are now. All right, so the scientists discover a new coronavirus drug target from proteins that let the virus hide from the immune system. Currently, there's no known cure for the coronavirus pandemic ravaging the globe, but researchers have identified a potential new drug target mapping two critical proteins as the world looks for a cure for COVID-19. Scientists from Northwestern University mapped the atomic structure of two critical proteins in a complex, NSP10 and NSP16, according to a statement from Argonne National Laboratory, which helped collect the data. The researchers noted the proteins modified the genetic material of the virus so it looks more like human RNA, allowing the virus to multiply and potentially give time for the immune system to find the virus and remove it once a drug is developed. This is a really beautiful target because it's a protein absolutely essential for the virus to replicate, said lead investigator Carla Satchel in a statement. The NSP10 and NSP16 protein is made up of two proteins tied together, which makes it more difficult to work with, according to the statement. With two proteins tied together, it can be a functional protein, according to previous research done on another acute respiratory disease, SARS. The new protein will be sent to Purdue University, where it will be screened for work that could be used to develop drugs to aid patients. However, researchers believe multiple drugs will be needed to treat COVID-19, Satchel added. All right, I think that's it for that one. My ex and my sister both went to Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. So I know Purdue University very well. My ex stayed in the dorm of Windsor. I can't remember where my sister... Oh, Meredith. She stayed in Meredith dorm. So if you have any ties to Purdue University, shout out. All right, so let's go to the next one. Leave a comment in the section below if you did go to Purdue by any chance. Because I was there a lot. Like from, let's see, 2002, 2003. During that time frame. All right, prosecutors. Brooklyn man coughs on an FBI agents during a price gouging arrest. And this is out of radio.com, WCBS 880. But I actually got this from the Drudge Report. So I'm using it. Okay, I'm using it. And that's a great resource. I'm so glad that he mentioned that. I mean, that's going to come in handy. And it's so clean and simple to look at. All right, anyway, a Brooklyn man coughed on FBI agents and then told them he had the coronavirus as they arrested him for price gouging on N95 receptors and other medical supplies, prosecutors say. U.S. Attorney Greg Carpinito, whatever. I'm bad with names. Said on one occasion, 43-year-old Baruch Feldheim allegedly agreed to sell the doctor in New Jersey approximately 1,000 N95 masks and other supplies for $12,000, about a 700% markup. Carpinito said the doctor met Feldheim in an auto repair shop in Irvington to pick up the items. When he arrived, authorities said the shop contained enough materials, including hand sanitizers, Clorox wipes, chemical cleaning supply agents, and surgical supplies to outfit an entire hospital. According to prosecutors, a shipment of face masks from Canada arrived at Feldheim's Brooklyn residence, where FBI agents said on multiple occasions they witnessed people going to the home and walk away with boxes or bags that appeared to contain medical supplies. Feldheim is charged with making false statements to law enforcement and assaulting a federal officer. The assault charge carries a maximum penalty of 1 year in prison and a $100,000 fine. He faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine if convicted of the false statements charge, which I hope he gets, because that dude is an asshole. All right, let's go to the next one here. 7. That's the last one, folks. Bloomberg. I don't like Bloomberg. BloombergQuint.com. Is this? Well, I mean, I guess they are separated. This must be legit. I've never heard of it, but all right. The return of the barter economy. This is interesting. Swapping eggs for toilet paper. Since the beginning of March, unattended folding tables have begun popping up at intersections and at the end of people's driveways, offering everyday goods like rice, a jar of jam, or bread. Take what you need and leave what you can, the signs say. Barter, the trade system prevalent in the Middle Ages, is back in the time of coronavirus pandemic with a modern twist. Social networks, Facebook and Nextdoor, are flooded with posts from neighbors and friends seeking to swap eggs for toilet paper. Small and mid-sized businesses whose cash trade has dried up from the economic fallout of shelter-in-place orders are turning to online barter exchanges. When cash is extra tight, it behooves us to buy as much as possible on trade, says David Usen, director of business development for Seattle-based Heavy Restaurant Group, which recently bought 56 cases of Malbec wine for $15,000 worth of barter credits. The company's 10 restaurants have closed, but some locations will start offering pickup and delivery this week. It saves us money, and it helps with cash flow. In normal times, the roughly 200 barter exchanges in the U.S. let roofers fix leaks and get paid in restaurant takeouts or accounting services. With tens of millions of Americans under lockdowns, those cash-free trade systems are seeing an influx of participants. The International Reciprocal Trade Association represents 100 barter exchanges, each catering to thousands of businesses. Some exchanges reported a 20% to 35% increase in member signups in March, said Rod Whitney, President and Chief Executive Officer for the group known as IRTA. These are challenging times for us, but it also represents an opportunity for us, Whitney said. An estimated 12 billion to 14 billion barter trades. Let me restate that. An estimated $12 billion to $14 billion worth of barter trades take place each year, according to IRTA. And I guarantee you that's going to go up a lot after this happened. Because I bet that, because I'm telling you, man, like if it gets bad enough over the next month, people are going to be afraid to go to the store. I'm already afraid to go to the store. I don't want to go. I really don't want to go. To be honest with you, if somebody knocked on the door and they said, hey, if you give me $30, just give me your grocery list and I'll just go there for you, I would be like, oh, hell yeah. I'll even give you 40 if you give everything that's on the list. I really would. Because to me, I mean, and again, I don't make much money. I really don't. I swear to God, I don't. Let me just say this. I make less than $35,000 a year. Okay. And it might even be less than $30,000 a year, to be honest. I'd have to look at my pay stub. I don't know. Yeah, it actually might be. Yeah, I think it might actually be less than 30,000. But anyway, whatever. That's not important. But I mean, if somebody knocked on the door, just given the risk, and because I do just happen to have that amount set aside that I'm just kind of hanging on to because we can't go anywhere, we can't spend money in in anywhere at all. I can't go to fast food. Um, I mean, I can technically, yes, there are essential places open, but it's not worth the risk to me. But if somebody knocked on the door, I think right now I have 100, I have 100, no, maybe 150, give or take, because my gas tank's almost empty. I'm still riding out this whole cheap gas thing. Right now in Florida, gas is about 180, or 180. It's $1.80 per gallon right now. And that's as of the 31st of March. Still about $1.80. I checked southern Indiana, northern Kentucky. There's gas down there being sold, or up there, as little as 85 cents a gallon. So there's pockets of this country where gas is literally being sold for less than $1 a gallon. That is insane. And the Southeast is supposed to be the cheapest place in the country for gas, because that's where most of our refineries and our oil platforms, and there's not much trucking that takes place to the gas station in my area. But for some reason, we're still almost at $2 a gallon. So I don't know where the taxes are going, but anyway, there are places in the United States right now where gas is selling for less than $1. So I'm hoping to just ride it out. My car has a quarter tank, so I might be able to get to Friday. And if I can, then I'll get an extra couple of days over the weekend just to ride it out a little more. But I think I'm going to have to put a few bucks in. But I take the risk going inside. Coronavirus, I would prefer to pay cash because, I'm a tightwad. Well, I guess in this circumstance. No, I can't, because back in October, somebody jacked my card number somewhere, and I still can't figure that out. I have no idea, because I went to college for IT for a while, so I know how to protect my stuff. But somehow they got a hold of my credit card, and I think it might have been something I downloaded that I'm not going to share, because it's, it has to do with watching a movie and being too poor to be able to go watch it. So, I had to go somewhere to do this and get that, and the other, and maybe somewhere my credit card doesn't have to do with that specifically, but I think I accidentally downloaded something that had a virus on it, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I freaking slipped up and I used a stupid skimmer at a gas pump. But anyway, that's all besides the point. I think hopefully I would be able to have like maybe 150 or so set aside for groceries. So if somebody came out to my door and they said, "Hey, if you give me $30, and if you have a grocery list, I'll just run up to the store and get it for you, and I'll just hand it to you item by item. You can spray it clean," because I have aerosol, like Lysol spray. That's what I used with the last grocery run. I would like spray each item and wipe it down with the cloth and then hand it in. And then that's how I got all the groceries inside from my trunk. I would absolutely pay somebody that. I would probably pay somebody close to $50 to do that. To take the risk for me. Yeah, you go to the store. I don't want to go to the store right now. You go to the store. I'll give you $50 for that. And I wonder if there's anybody out there that might be listening to this, if you were furloughed from your job. Now, in the next couple of weeks, I wouldn't suggest anybody going. In fact, I would hope they close the store if it gets bad enough. If they're talking mid-April when this thing peaks, or late April, I would feel bad. I would absolutely give somebody $40, $50 to go to the store if I had to go. But I would just feel bad. I'd be like, man, dude, if you catch it, I'm never going to forgive myself. That kind of thing, the guilt, like the virus is everywhere right now. And by giving you $50 to go up there, you're probably going to get it, not me. And I don't know if I could live with myself. But anyway, the point being is that if you're willing to take the risk, if you have a bunch of masks that you've been hoarding up, like way before this thing broke out, and you got like 100 masks under your bed, and if you want to make like a quick $30-$40 each grocery run, throw up something on Craigslist, dude. Throw up something on nextdoor.com. Throw up something somewhere if you're not working right now. Just offer people your services. Go to the grocery store for them. Be like, dude, I'm taking a big risk going up there, man. Coronavirus. Everybody's wearing gloves and masks up there. 6 feet distance, and, it's crazy. I'll get everything on the list that's there, and I swear I'll be absolutely truthful. I'll look for the toilet paper. I know it's there, and if it's there, I'll get it for you. What if it is there? Like, how many you want me to get? Write down the number. Make your list as specific as you want, and I'll get whatever's on it. You pay me $40, boom, $40. To a lot of people, that's like a half shift salary or a half shift's worth of wages. You make 2 grocery trips for a couple of people. That's like maybe, I mean, if you have a strict grocery list to work with, and if you know the grocery store already, you're in and out of there in like 20 minutes or so, not including the time you got to wait in line. But and plus, I guess it depends on how crowded it is, but yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, if I were trying to look for a way to earn some extra money, that would be a good way to go about it. But anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much everything I have. So again, just be really safe out there, and just keep everything closed in, keep everything, like inside your house. Don't go out if you don't have to. It looks like you have a couple more days left according to the graph, not this one obviously, but according to that graph, it's definitely climbing quickly. So you definitely would want to do anything you can to stay inside, but just know in the next 2 weeks it peaks. And also, let me see if I don't have it anymore. But anyway, if you have to, you can go back to the early part of my video where I showed you the link to where that graph is, so you can get a good idea for your state, where you're at, what they're expecting you to go through over the next month. April is going to get bad. That's where it's going to get bad for everybody. Some places like California, it's going to be at the end of April, but it just depends on where you are. So anyway, hopefully I'll be back tomorrow for another one, but if not, at the very latest, I'll try to put out another one on Friday night. And because I don't work on Saturday, I will put it out on late Friday night, and it should be available first thing on Saturday. So in the meantime, I did just put out my video from yesterday. It's up there on YouTube right now. You probably already saw it if you're watching this one right now. But anyway, stay super safe out there. Keep your distance, 6 foot minimum. If somebody's sneezing or somebody's coughing around you, definitely minimum 27-foot distance, if not further. And just keep yourself safe. And I really hope you stay safe out there and your family does well, and nobody catches it, and you just ride this thing out as best as possible. And hit me up with a comment if you want me to talk about anything that you've seen in the news, or if you just have something to comment about the video. I read all my comments, even if it was a video I did a week ago. I still check my list of videos I posted. So put a comment anywhere you want. Hit me up, let me know, and until next time, be extremely safe out there. Thank you so much for watching.